Because not all data is created equal. Just because you bought data, like we've had people go, I need a data vendor. Okay, so what type of data do you want? Do you want data that's a collective decision or a collective prediction? Or do you want just general data that's 3 weeks old that, what? Welcome to a new episode of Real Business Roundtable. Today I want to talk about something that not a lot of folks think about, and it's very, very important if you own a business or you are selling a product or service. What we're going to talk about today is your customer universe. Your customer universe is who you can possibly sell to. Everybody has a number, 500,000, 200,000, whatever it is. You have the customers that you can sell to. The big question is what do you do with this information? Whether it's 1 million people or 100 people, you want to really understand what makes them tick. So you can get into psychology, go really deep with psychology and get into the buyer's persona. What makes them make a decision? What does their buyer's journey look like? Let's say the average process to make a decision for that specific buyer persona is going to behave a certain way. They're going to do A, B, C, D. That's going to be very different than, let's say, buyer persona B. They're going to do X, Y, Z. So it's good to identify their behaviors, but also, what are you doing to gain a competitive edge? That's the big question, because you're going to have competitors that are going after that same universe. So you really just have this group of potential clients that somebody else wants to, and you have to come up with a way to gain a competitive edge. Now, in today's world, with information, data, things like that, you can actually tap into their behaviors, their conversations to give you that competitive edge. So if you think about it, if you have your customer universe, but you tap in to, okay, what are they doing? What are they thinking? How are they behaving? And what should I do to take action to get their attention right now at the perfect moment? So accessing the right data at the right time and taking action at the right time can give you a huge competitive edge. Now, there's different types of, let's say, data out there. Yes, you have your customer universe, and you're tracking all these conversations, you're tracking all this data. It's good for the audience to know that there are data service providers. Everybody, tries to commoditize. The big question is, what do you do with that data? So say you buy Google search data. Like, what does somebody do with that? And I think that's the big question with people.
So at first, how do you figure out which behaviors are perfect for your business? Like, how do you figure that out so that now that a person understands, what behaviors to look for and what to, get from then they can go and try to find the place to find the behavior, and then they use it as an actionable, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get at in this episode is just educating people that we have gone far past profiles and interests.
Yeah.
That's old hat, but people are still relying on that. People are not accessing new, fresh customer data. These are people who are not your customers. I'm not talking up some people confuse the fact that they're just re-engaging existing customers. Please buy these jeans. Please buy these jeans. What about the customer over here that's never bought your jeans before? That's the piece I feel like people are losing.
I think the big point is that the people who have been your customers show this or have these attributes to them. They have these different things, different behaviors that they did, or they share that with someone who is not already your client or already your customer. So when you're looking for data, you're not necessarily targeting or looking for people who are already your customer or have been your customer. You're looking for attributes that match that person who is your customer to find people who aren't.
Yeah.
Right?
So the automotive industry refers it to conquest. They have their different terminology. Sometimes I see some automotive dealerships where they're like, hammering their current client base, which is good to stay in contact. But what about the new people who are not brand loyal? Let's bring them over and capture that data to bring those new customers on. Like that, I feel like that's neglected sometimes.
Yeah, those should be two completely different campaigns, because the retargeting, the people who have bought a BMW, or whatever, an automotive, I'm just going to use BMW as an example. So, you buy a BMW, you're more likely going to buy another one and be loyal since you already bought one. So it makes sense. A campaign retargeting the people who have bought BMWs, people who have bought Toyotas, whatever brand it may be. But you're right. There has to be a campaign looking for, targeting people who aren't, people who may be into a competing brand.
Exactly. So there are a huge, a massive portion of the market that they're not brand loyal. They'll go from an Audi to a Beamer to a Mercedes to a Porsche, and they'll just kind of bounce around. They're not brand loyal. I'm an example of a brand loyal customer. A lot of people aren't. They just, hey, I just want a nice, good looking, fast vehicle that will take me from point A to point B. They just want something stylish, something cool, something hip, whatever. Then you have the folks that are brand loyal. What we're trying to get at is you want to capture those people that are not brand loyal to get them to flip and come to you to entertain a brand that you offer. And I don't want to get too focused on automotive. I'm just using that as an example.
Shoes.
Yeah.
You got shoes.
Sneakers. So like, let's say somebody is like, they're rocking Yeezys and they love Adidas. They love Adidas. Well, let's say, that they wear maybe Puma, they wear maybe Nike. Then okay, this person's not brand loyal. They just like to wear Yeezys. Let's get them to try Nikes. Let's
comparable.
Let's run an ad for the new Air Force Ones right directly to that person in their feed.
Yeah.
But I feel like people are accessing the data that is more of a commodity. Mm-hmm. There is data out there that, if combined with other data, you can look for patterns. You can see synergy, stuff like that, where don't be a one-trick pony. Don't just pull from one piece of data. Try to pull from the most possible, and then try to use some kind of program to read that data, sort that data, compartmentalize that data, and have an element of prediction.
Yeah, at the end of the day, advertising the way it is, running ads on Google, Facebook, all these major platforms, it is saturated. People are spending more and more and more money on the same, return. And I think people who are used to spending money on these platforms are noticing that. You have to find another way of efficiency, and it's there and it's available. And I don't think people know about it enough. And that's where data comes in hand, because, I could go on and I could run Facebook ads to anything. But I'm going to be spending more now than I was before, because there's so many people running ads, and it is so saturated, and it does not work as well as it did, now than it did before. So like I said before, you have to find that new efficiency, and that comes from data. When you get data, essentially what you're doing is you're informing your advertising who to target. So you're not just targeting off of, Facebook's data sources, Facebook's information, Google's information. Even though Google has, a massive data source, it's not very actionable. It's not as actionable as it can be. And so when you're spending a lot of money on ads and stuff like that, you have to find that new efficiency tool, which is data.
I've used other data companies that say they had the one thing that was intriguing was there was something connected to MLS.
Oh, you remember.
Specifically MLS, where someone was showing intent on moving.
Which is real estate, if people don't know.
Yeah, and, tried it out, worked okay, but it was very convoluted at one channel. If you pull from multiple channels and feed that data in to some sort of brain, AI, code, software, whatever you want to call it, that does the sorting and compartmentalizing for you, it can make your life a whole lot easier when it comes to advertising. Because back in the day, data analysts would have to go through all this data and, try to see patterns or whatever. And now things are sort of automated and providing a like next level advantage.
To your
but still to this day, like we'll talk to other advertising people and they'll be like, oh yeah. Oh, DSPs. And we're like, no, dude, this is very different.
Yeah.
Because you can like buy data. Okay. What are you going to do with the data? Okay. You bought the data. What are you doing? How do you know which who's who, what's what? What's the let's say what section of the funnel that the person is at? You can't just take that data and run with it, especially if it's coming from one source.
Yeah.
Like people will go out and they'll buy Google search data. Okay, somebody Googled something. That does not mean that they're ready to make a purchase.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of like blanks. There's a lot of blanks in there where you're just kind of, oh yeah, hey, this list is the magic list. Okay, you might improve customer acquisition by what, 5%?
Yeah.
Rather than sorting through it correctly with the right technology and then identifying those buyers. Every company has a customer universe. It's what information around that customer universe that you utilize in order to give you an advantage when it comes to engaging those customers, especially within a digital landscape. Are you serving them a piece of content? Are you running an ad? Are you following them wherever they go online through ad roll or whatever? When you access the right data, it can give you a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people will get their customer universe information and they'll just who they can sell to, and they'll send out direct mail. They'll run ads on certain channels where someone might have an interest, or they might target them with, let's say Pandora or something like that. So they'll go through the list.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, they'll go through the list, but when you access data that's only from one source.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
When you access data that's from one source, it's not as accurate. End
Yeah.
of story. That's the truth.
No,
it's
yeah.
not as accurate. I don't care what anybody says. If you look at the definition of what perfects AI, the more input AI gets, which is the brains that will do the thinking,
Mm-hmm.
the more input it gets, the more accurate the output.
But that's for anything that accepts that uses data to learn. So like, for example, you're saying, it's obviously just having one data source. So there are businesses out there that have budgets for data sets, and they'll use like 10, 15, maybe even just 3 or 4 different data vendors. But my point is that there is a data budget. These data sets are almost like equity. It's like because when you have more data, the more knowledgeable you are of your perfect buyer's attributes and personas and behaviors. And the better you know, the more accurate you're going to be targeting those people. And so I guess the whole point of this episode is to help people, understand the importance of data and how it's growing, and how, it's an industry that people don't realize is going, it is massive and is still growing. And, it's just important for businesses to get access to this stuff, to get access to data sets. So back to my point before, there's vendors for data, but then there's also DSPs. DSPs are sites like Google, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon. I mean, there's linked. I mean, there's hundreds of them. It's platforms, social platforms. They're all sources of data, sources of behaviors online. And then there's vendors. These vendors have business relationships with these data sources, gathering this behavior and compartmentalizing it and sorting it and and organizing that data. Those vendors then sell it to businesses, and that's where the data budget comes from. So these companies will work with these data vendors, and there's hundreds of them, thousands of them out there, and they all pull from certain data sources. So that's kind of like the gist of data in the industry of data, how it's growing. And it's there's you hear on the news all the time about Facebook or whatever social platform pulling from this or using voice or that. It's all for the data. People don't want their information just out there. And so it's like you may not even notice you're hearing about the industry, but you're hearing about it constantly. It's always in debate. It's always in, the people are always talking about terms of services and, terms and conditions or whatever. And, all those different things that you accept on these platforms. And that's where it's all coming from. When you click, like, I agree to the terms of, what is it? Terms and conditions?
Terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions. You're agreeing to, give out your data. Some people use it properly. Some people don't use it very properly. And I guess, I like where,
like the key is to maintain the highest level of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you work with a data company, it's always best to get the data encrypted just in case anything. It doesn't put you in a spot or in a bad spot. It's encrypted. You can't see it. It maintains privacy. But when you upload that data, and let's say you run ads against it, the platform should be able to figure out who those potential customers are.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of like just sum up the topic and the episode is, if every business has a customer universe, there are new ways to engage those customers in the age of AI, in the age of data, and robust data and different types of technology to read that data. It's very important for you as a business owner to take it seriously and look into ways that you can gain that competitive edge before it becomes saturated. Because right now it reminds me of back in the day when nobody knew what SEO was.
Yeah.
So like you had to like teach people, like you got to explain to people how it works and stuff like that. This is very reminiscent.
It's like almost like an if you know, because like there are big companies out there who are using, this sort of stuff, and it's just, it's almost like a
and there's some there's some things out there that are not like available to everybody that we've seen. No, seriously, like
creating
it's not,
scarcity.
No, it's not.
I know.
It's the truth.
I know.
It's the truth.
I'm joking,
dude. It is. So like there are some things out there that are extremely controlled and limited. I've seen my share of things that say big dogs are using, and I'm like, why isn't this widely available? What is going on?
And
Yeah. So like, I'm just kind of like, okay, but I've seen people go, oh yeah, I use data, and I go, show it to me. And they're like, oh, look at this. This is Google search data. And I'm like, dude, people Google things that they're not ready to buy.
I want a
yacht.
People
Google.
I Googled a yacht.
Houses, mansions, Lambos. They like to just kind of look at stuff and dream. There's a good portion of those people that are actually not really ready to buy.
Yacht dealers.
Today, that's what matters, is the timing. Are they actually really ready to buy right now? Are they qualified to buy right now?
I'm ready to buy a yacht. Target me. I looked one up yesterday. I'm ready. $33 million easy.
So like it's the qualification piece. So yeah, you'll buy some simple data from one source, and then you'll do whatever you do with it. And like, yeah, you might see a small improvement, but there are better ways to pull from hundreds of data sources using technology to sort and sift
through the brains of all Americans with smartphones.
No. But there are ways of doing it in a more advanced, more modern way.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to create a video, and I didn't name drop.
No.
I'm providing education because people need to know that it's
available.
Better to use the right data and using multiple forms of data to get better performance out of engaging their customer universe.
No, I know I'm joking a lot, but it is true though. Like these days, data is becoming more and more important, and it's not saturated yet. But I say yet because a lot of people are getting access to it. And no, we did not name the name. Yes, we are in the data industry, and no, this is not necessarily to sell our product or service.
I know. You get someone in comments that goes
OSM.
self-promotion.
No, and honestly, I don't care. Like, we're not here talking about our business. We're not talking about our product. It's not about that. Yes, we are in the data industry, and I'm talking, from firsthand that it is growing and it is becoming bigger and bigger, and small businesses who don't have the access to data are going to be getting access to data, and it's just, it's informative. We're trying to inform people.
Because not all data is created equal. Just because you bought data, like we've had people go, I need a data vendor. Okay, so what type of data do you want? Do you want data that's a collective decision or a collective prediction? Or do you want just general data that's 3 weeks old what?
Thank you so much for joining us today on Real Business Roundtable. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you get notified every time we post a new episode. Also, check us out on Instagram for clips, updates, more, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.